Read this sentence from paragraph 7. Always, after these confining lessons, I was wild with surplus spirits and found joyous relief in running loose in the open again. Which sentence best describes how this sentence fits into the overall structure of the excerpt? So is it E? It introduces a shift from the author's demanding relationship with her mother. It's kind of negative, demanding, but I guess the mother is demanding on certain aspects, but she also gives her freedom too, to her more relaxed relationship with friends. So I'm not sure about demanding, but otherwise, that is literally the transition. So by the way, fits into the overall structure of the excerpt. That language and questions almost always indicates a transition from the paragraph idea before to this paragraph that follows. So what is that transition here? That will be our answer. So that is a transition, and it's the right things happening potentially, except for the word demanding. F, it signals a change from the challenging aspects of life on the reservation. No, this is not generally, that's too broad in scope. This is about beadwork with her mother. This passage is not about life in general on the reservation or advantages of living on the prairie in general. So that we can eliminate, F. G, it highlights a contrast between the focus and control required while working and the freedom of having fun outside. Well, yeah, it definitely was the whole passage up until this last paragraph, paragraph 7. The author is working. She's focused. She's watching her mother. She's learning. And then at the end of the day, she just kind of lets loose, right? So that's definitely a contrast, and that's the right relationship between the ideas of what's going on. So G looks quite plausible or quite reasonable as an answer as well. H, it concludes the progression of events in the narrative by describing the sequence of events at the end of the author's day. So that almost sounds okay. It concludes the progression of events by describing the sequence of events at the end of the author's day. Well, we got to be careful. Does it describe the sequence of events when she goes out to play? Is that important? And is the whole passage a progression of events? I know we see some sequencing in parts of the passage when the mother's preparing her beadwork, but I'm not sure the whole passage is a sequential organization. So I'm inclined to think H is not the right answer. But here we are between E and G. So there's another passage, Niagara Falls, and there's a question just like this. How does this fit into the overall structure? And it was a transition. The answer was it was a transition from the raging falls into the river below it. So that kind of seemed more akin to E, which is just a statement of kind of what it is that's changing. We're going from the shift in the author's demanding relationship with her mother to her more relaxed relationship with her friends. Well, I'm not sure if this is really about their relationship either. So maybe it isn't exactly like that Niagara Falls passage at all, because that would indicate to me E would be right. But I think G is the correct answer. It highlights a contrast. That's the real idea here. She's going from confining lessons to being wild with surplus spirits, right? She's going to let off her steam, and those two things are contrasting with each other. That's the right idea. So I'm going to go with G. I have some inclination to go with E. This is a difficult question, I think, but G is the answer, I believe, for 56. I might also add one more point. This is a question of how as well. So we can't just say what the transition or shift was, but we want to know how it fits into the overall structure of the excerpt. So E is just really kind of giving us a what. It shifts from the author to the friendship, to the friends. That's not really saying anything about how it would fit into the overall structure of the excerpt. Whereas G highlights a contrast between focus and control on the one hand and freedom, having fun on the other hand. that is a better description of the how, which we've seen in other problems as well, or other wording of questions. So again, that sort of confirms me as well. 56, the best answer is G.